All right, everybody, I am Mr. Topag, and we're going to jump right in and check out this PoE 2 Druid gameplay from Gamescom and see how we feel about it. Bear.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Rogers, one of the game directors on Path of Exile 2. In Path of Exile 2, you can pick from one of 12 character classes. Each character has a...
I really don't think we need closed captions. All right. 12 character classes. I think again, the Scion's gone. And I have seen this before, but I hadn't done an analysis video on it yet, so...
combination of primary attributes that they focus on. Today, we'd like to show off a character who specializes in strength and intelligence, the Druid. In human form, the Druid is a spellcaster who channels the fury of nature on the battlefield, a walking natural disaster. But get up close and you'll find out why the Druid also focuses on strength. You can transform yourself into one of several wild beasts. Today, we want to show off the bear form. Transformation in PoE 2 happens automatically when you use a bear attack. Use Bear Maul and your character will transform into a bear, into a meaty swing. Use a spell.
So a lot of that is sort of... We've already seen multiple things here. One, again, it's referring to all the different combinations of skills that in PoE 2 you're going to be using instead of sort of relying on one skill to do everything for you in terms of damage. And the smooth transition from human to werebear form, or were whatever form, is a really good thing. Like it's just keeps the combat flowing, and again feeds into that system of I used a werewolf skill or a werebear skill real quick, and then I'm gonna switch back to a spell real quick, without having to like do a bunch of key presses.
And your character transforms back into a human and casts it. Hitting enemies with the bear's maul attack will build up rage, which increases your attack damage, so your bear gets stronger with every...
Okay, so rage build up. I see the buff in the top left, but there's no bar for it anymore above your mana. I am hoping that Rage is still also a support gem and that there are other ways to gain it, because I love having attacks with Rage support on them. Rage is such an awesome mechanic in terms of damage speed. It provides such a good bonus to you if you can keep it built up. So, yeah, that's cool, but it's cool that it's built into this skill. Into the werebear skills. I just want to... I'm hoping that it is found in other places as well.
Every attack. You can see the glowing runes that indicate rage on your back. Have a lot of weak enemies to take out? This is where you probably want to break out your rampage. Let out a roar and stampede over all enemies in your path, slamming the ground with your paws. The initial roar generates rage, and then the rage is consumed as you charge along. You can use Rampage by itself to travel a short distance, or do some mauling first to build up some rage and travel a significant distance.
So that's really cool. A couple things. Having the runes indicate rage on your body is really awesome. That does, to me, kind of hint at the possibility that rage will be something that's specific to the werebear or to the transformation skills themselves. I just 30 seconds ago said how I'd really like to have rage found in other places, but it's all conjecture. But it's really cool to have a visual indicator outside of just your bar, your buffs up top. But I would also like to make sure that you can still get rage other ways. But having a spender of rage besides Berserk. Berserk's the only skill in PoE that spends rage that I'm aware of. Having ways to generate and spend rage, like multiple ways, is really cool. Like I like the idea that they're taking a lot of the existing mechanics and refining them and expanding them. Even the small things, like rage is perfectly fine where it is in the game in PoE right now, but taking it and doing even more with it is, I mean, really what anybody should do with a sequel. Like, we don't... It's funny how few sequels we actually get that take a really strong foundation and expand on it and build on it really strongly. Remnant 2 did a very good job of that. Whole different genre, but still.
Now, while the bear is big and strong, this isn't a pure strength class. You don't have as much armor as a warrior would have. In order to protect itself from larger packs,
That's been a couple times that he said something like that, where this class doesn't have the defenses that another class has. Now, ostensibly, in PoE, you can go and grab defenses from any part of the tree that you want and make really any class tanky. So I'm wondering if there's something class-specific that's built in now, or if I'm just reading too much into it.
you might want to consider a skill like Furious Slam. This skill is all about stunning rather than damage, so it's quite useful if you're mobbed by smaller monsters and just need to get out of there. Of course, like any PoE 2 character, you can always use a dodge roll to get out of danger, since the bear is the slowest of the druid's forms. Making sure the dodge feels reliable and can get you out of any situation is paramount. When you dodge an animal form, your character instantly transforms back with no time penalty.
So that's pretty awesome again. Like, these are all things that feed into this sort of smooth, combo-based combat experience. Being able to roll mid-animation while you're in bear form or transformed is just... It's all meant to sort of give you a toolbox and let you use it as freely as possible. Like, yes, there are limitations of some kind, but it's not cooldowns, and you can only roll so many times, and you have to transform back to human before you can cast spells, and all this other stuff. It's, hey, what can you do? What kind of crazy shit can you put together out of all the tools that we've given you to play with? And that is how game design, especially in an action RPG, should work. Is they should give you access to a bunch of different things to play with, and you should be able to find combinations of skills and items and buffs and whatever that even the developers haven't thought of that are viable and fun to play with. There's another game that, we won't mention, that has done a less good job of that.
So that you can get out of the way. You can even interrupt a mistimed transformation halfway through. Of course, doing this will mean you pay the slight time cost of having to transform back again, but it's certainly a lot better than dying. Something interesting about this skill is that it's faster to use if you're already standing up. If you're on all fours when you use Furious Slam, then the bear has to stand up first before slamming back down. But use Maul first, and the bear will stand up as you swing, which has no time penalty. Then follow up with Furious Slam, and your bear will quickly slam down. Much more efficient.
The fact that a developer / designer thought of that we should take time off of this attack animation if the player is already standing up from a different attack on two legs. That's dedication to detail. That's all I'm saying.
Next up, I want to talk about Ferocious Roar. Ferocious Roar is a bear meta skill gem. It allows you to take any Warcry skill that another class like the Warrior might use and allow you to use it as a bear. I'm going to take the side.
So the phrasing of that, again, makes me ask questions. He said a Warcry skill that a Warrior might use. Now, to my understanding is any character class can use any skill still. But he's saying it allows the bear to use war cries. I wonder if there's limitations on that, or if this metagem is to facilitate using multiple war cries as the bear. Like, if it wasn't the bear, you'd have to use a different metagem, or you'd have to use the war cries individually. Or I'm just wondering, just the way he's phrasing some of this stuff, it makes me wonder where the limitations are, because we haven't seen many so far. There's basically play with metagems, socket as many war cries as you want, use any combination of skills that you want as any character class. I mean, it's, yeah, pretty crazy.
Seismic Cry Gem and socket it into Ferocious Roar. You can actually socket more than one Warcry and use them all together, but let's just stick to one for now.
No.
Seismic Cry pushes enemies back and has some stun chance.
What support gem did he
I'm going
equip?
to take the Seismic Cry Gem and socket it into Ferocious Roar. You can actually socket more than one Warcry and use them all together, but let's just stick to one for now.
What was that increase? Enraged Warcry support. Supported Warcries consume up to 10 rage, causing attacks exerted by them to deal 30% more damage. Okay, that... Man. This new gem system, like, I just want to get my hands on it.
The reason
like,
we want to use it is for a mechanic called Exerted Attacks. If there are any heavily stunned enemies in range of the Warcry, then your next slam skill will be powered to do double the number of slams. First, I use Furious Slam to stun these enemies. Next, I follow up with Seismic Cry and get the Exerted Attack. And then I slam again. See how 2 slams triggered?
So that's really cool too. It's like the Exerted Attack isn't just like more damage. It's like the skill actually repeats when you use it if it's an exerted attack. So you get, it's a lot more visual feedback, and you know, obviously it's more damage, but you are also seeing the effects of what you're doing. And I think there's been a much stronger emphasis on that so far from what we've seen.
So, that's all well and good, but how about we try that again using Rampage? First, get a bit of Rage, Slam to stun the enemies, Seismic Cry to get the Exert, and then Rampage around to do insane amounts of damage. So we've covered some of the bear side of the Druid, but how is he as a spellcaster? Now of course we want to maximize the amount of time you spend in your animal forms, so most of the spells targeted at the Druid tend to be things that last a long time or provide tactical options on the battlefield. The first and probably simplest of these is Lightning Storm. Cast it on the ground and you get an area where monsters are continuously struck by bolts of lightning. The bolts don't do...
That kind of looks like Herald of Thunder a lot, so I'm wondering if we still have Heralds. I mean, we still have reservation skills. They use Spirit, that white bar off to the right above your mana now. But I'm wondering if there's any overlap like that, where you have this Lightning Storm that shocks enemies in an area, and Herald of Thunder, which kind of does the same thing, in addition to buffing you.
Do much damage, but they shock monsters, which is a debuff that increases all damage on them, meaning it's a great spell to use before going in as a bear. So, that's going to increase your damage, but as I mentioned before, the bear form of the Druid could use some defenses as well. The bear in particular is the slowest attacking of the Druid's forms. He hits hard, but if he gets swarmed too much, it will result in your death. That's why Tornado is so useful. Tornado sucks monsters in, allowing you to split up packs and deal with groups separately, or pin monsters in place and set up combos with your other skills. The Tornado doesn't really move big monsters much, so you can actually use it to separate a boss from its minions too. The Druid also has the ability to summon animal companions. This is another really useful defense because wolves can take aggro from you, keeping monsters away.
Yeah, I mean, if you play as a Druid, you have to be able to have animal companions. It's just sort of... I'm getting a lot of the Diablo 2 vibes from this. I feel like transformation skills were just a matter of time, and I can already hear my wife saying, I want to play a Druid for her first build. It would not surprise me, let's put it that way. And there's nothing wrong with that.
In addition, the wolves howl as they are summoned, putting a temporary debuff on enemies that makes them more vulnerable to critical strikes, and giving you a reason to resummon them in combat.
See, so that's cool. That's something I like about minions as well, or summons, whatever you want to call them. The idea, like permanent summons, like my understanding is these wolves are permanent, they're not time-based, which is how I prefer my minions anyway. But having a reason to resummon them, or having like an active skill if you resummon them, or what, I like that type of mechanic where yes, you have companions, they're passive, they're following you around, but if you press another button they will do something extra. I kind of really like that. It gets you a little bit more involved in your summons and your minions.
The last Druid spell we're going to talk about today is Volcano. You can cast it quickly like this and it will spawn just a few projectiles. Or you can hold down the button to channel it for longer, which will make it fire a whole bunch of projectiles when it spawns, doing a lot more damage. The volcano.
So that's cool too, is the ability to channel stuff. I mean, channeling's already in PoE, but I guess the way I want to phrase this is that it's cool that it may still be viable to like do a short channel on some of these skills, just so you can get one out and get a little extra damage going.
Sticks around firing its little projectiles for a long time, so it's another good skill to cast before turning into a bear. Now, the reason you're going to want to turn into a bear after using Volcano is that any slam near the volcano results in it spewing out even more projectiles.
This is another awesome skill interaction, and it said any slam skill will make the volcano shoot out more projectiles. So you don't even have to be playing as a werebear. You could do like a melee build that uses slams and then also puts the volcano down and slam it and have projectiles going everywhere. It'd be like an upgraded Molten Strike, basically. Poor Molten Strike.
And if you thought that was a lot, then Rampage is even better, because it does 2 slams every time it hits the ground, and you can run around the volcano.
Right, so these I know I'm pausing very often, but there's a lot here. These skill interactions are just crazy. Like this is the type of stuff that I would want out of a game like this, that allows you to just sort of mix and match and find these crazy combinations of buffs and damage boosters and screen clearing and stunning and all this other stuff. It's just amazing. As long as, and I can't see this ever possibly being the outcome, as long as it doesn't sort of end up limiting your skill interactions. Like, the only way you ever use this skill is if you also use slams with it. Like, I would hope that there would be other ways to make this volcano skill viable other than saying, hey, you need to slam it in order to make it worth your time.
Now, if you've been paying attention, you might have realized that this is going to be extra good with Seismic Cry, which we were using earlier to double the number of slams. So, first we're going to cast Volcano. Then Furious Slam till you stun something, Seismic Cry to get the double slams, then Rampage around while the volcano spews out a stupid number of projectiles. This combo would have been even better if we'd remembered to cast our Lightning Storm first, but getting time for that seems tricky. It would also have been nice if the monsters were affected by the crit debuff that my wolves do when I first summon them. This is where some meta gems to automate some elements can come in handy. Here's a gem called Cast While Channeling. If we add Lightning Storm to the skill, we can cast it automatically while we channel a volcano as we set up our combo. Cast While Channeling is an ongoing effect, so enabling the skill will cost us Spirit, which is a new resource in PoE 2 used specifically for these kinds of skills. If you look at the top left of the screen as we channel, we can see the energy building up to cast the Lightning Storm. So long as we...
So something they've mentioned before, that top left buff that builds up to the cast of Lightning Storm because of Cast While Channeling. Cast While Channeling and Cast on Crit and things like that in PoE now are basically just on a cooldown that you can decrease with a couple sources of was it decreased skill cooldown in the game. There aren't a lot of sources of that. But having this tied to like sort of generating and building up to that buff, and I think in the ExileCon video they said that the build up to those buffs are dependent on like how much mana or how powerful the skill is, so it can vary essentially. So there may be channeling skills that it would trigger a cast while channeling support more slowly, but this one seems to be pretty fast. So my point is that like, this is a different way to balance it. It's not everything's just based around a cooldown and you try to get that cooldown as low as possible or bypass it or whatever. This is, you need to pick the right skill to attach to Cast While Channeling or Cast on Crit or any of these other meta gems to ensure that it triggers at the right time for you and doesn't use all your resources and is the right skill for you. And so this is another way that I think that a lot of these skills that we are already familiar with are going to sort of be refined and stand on their own and be worth using.
Channel Volcano for long enough, the Lightning Storm will also be cast on the same targeted location. Currently, Castspell Channeling is active in reserving Spirit in both our human and bear forms. This means that any channeling skills we use as a bear technically will also cast the Lightning Storm. We can actually do this with Rampage right now, but it's not the best because we would prefer to stack the Lightning Storm on top of our Volcano, rather than just casting it randomly as we're rampaging around. We're also unnecessarily reserving Spirit in our bear form we could be using for something else, so let's fix that. I'm going to go into the skill options for the skill and disable it in my bear form. We showed at ExileCon how you could use skill options to control which weapon set to use when casting skills, but you can also use the same interface to enable or disable which buffs you would like to have active in your different weapon sets too, without having to recast.
Yeah, look at that. You get your 2 weapon sets, and it looks like bear form or transformation is its own weapon set as well, which is just... I can't believe they thought of that. That's also something that sets, like, I don't know if that's based on the fact that this is the Druid class, or the fact that they're using transformation skills. I don't know which of those gives the 3rd weapon set like that, but if it is tied to the class, that's something to give the Druid class more identity, which I'm cool with. Again, that's really cool to do that. But either way, like that's an awesome quality of life thing.
Cast them all the time, and shapeshifting counts as a weapon set. Now when I change to a bear, the effect and the spirit reservation goes away, and when I change back to a human again, it's back automatically. So, now that we have some extra spirit available as a bear, why don't we make our life a little bit easier by automating one of our other skills? This is the Cast on Melee Stun meta gem. I'm going to put Summon Wolf in Cast on Melee Stun, so that whenever I stun a sufficient number of enemies while I'm a bear, it will summon another wolf. This is great because usually when I'm stunning, it's because I'm about to do my exerted attack slam combo. When wolves come out, they howl, adding the crit debuff to the monsters, right when I need it. It also helps keep my wolves alive and summoned at all times without me having to do it manually.
Yeah, see, automating things like that and having these sort of amazing and intricate buffs supporting you just because you found an awesome combination. I know I keep talking about it, but it's crazy to me. Like, you could totally manually manage your wolves if you want to, but if you want to just have this and have it handled for you and working in the background as you're doing everything else, there you go. Like, that's chef's kiss.
So, last but not least, let's talk about the skill tree. At ExileCon we showed how you could dual spec your character so that different weapons can use different passives. Well, as I said before, the bear form counts as another weapon set for specialization purposes, so he gets a tree too. If I open my passive tree, you can see how I'm near a melee damage cluster and a spell damage cluster.
Yeah, like if you look up in the top right, there's points to spend on both weapon sets and the shapeshift weapon set. That, again, crazy. That's just crazy. I can't wait to see what kind of insane batshit builds everybody comes up with. I want to play all of them.
By holding shift, I can allocate these passives in my human form, and these ones as a bear. Now, when I change between human and bear form, my passives reallocate automatically. So, here we are at the Blind Beast. The goblins have enslaved a huge behemoth, and
I would like to say that I still think that, they're moving gems around a lot, and there aren't a lot of supports on them. So I do think that this is also slower and a little bit clunkier than combat will actually be in the game when the time comes, because they're trying to showcase things, not blast through everything and destroy it.
gouged out its eyes. Now they're sending it in to fight you while they watch.
It is interesting that they have brought back some, like, sort of stereotypical fantasy elements like goblins and enemies dropping gold and things like that, which is fine. Like I don't mind. It's just interesting because it always seemed like they didn't quite go towards that sort of thing in the past, but it also does look like these goblins have their own. They're still small, green, and annoying, but they still don't look quite like other goblins in other games, and sort of have their own flavor.
Come to this creature.
Something I can't wait for is the inevitable rash of YouTube videos that are like, this will be the strongest build in PoE 2. This will be the new meta, when it's like all based on gameplay videos. We haven't seen any actual like values on anything. We don't know exactly how everything's going to work. We haven't actually seen the new skill tree, but there will still be those clickbait videos that are like, this will do 3,000% damage and clear all content easily. You must use this build. Suffering ends here. There's a Bile-Soaked Tome. Oh, yep, I paused just the right time. Yep, Bile-Soaked Tome. It's one of those character buffs that the bosses drop, plus $5 attributes. That's awesome.
And there we have it. With a little bit of customization, we have a build that can combine many different active skills to do some really interesting effects. At the same time, your skill tree reconfigures automatically at the right time, and your buffs reconfigure automatically as well. You can even cast certain skills automatically. But we also haven't lost the dynamics of combat. Many skills interact with each other, and the ones you choose to use at any different moment depend a lot on what enemies you face or what situation you're in right at this moment. And at just the right time, you might be able to combine all your skills in one crazy combo, get some satisfying screen covering spam, and do some crazy damage. Now, these are just some of the skills targeted at the Druid in PoE 2. We didn't even show you the wolf form yet. There's a lot more to play and experience.
That would totally be my jam, is the werewolf. I want the faster attacks, and traditionally werewolves are faster than werebears in games like this.
And we look forward to letting you guys try it out when we go into beta on June 7th, 2024.
So close yet so far. Excuse me. It'll be here before we know it, but I need to find something to occupy myself with between now and then. This looks great. I love the idea of the Druid. We're seeing a lot of mechanics that we know and love. Rage, stun, cast while channeling. These are all things that already exist in PoE, but have been refined, improved, and added to the new toolbox that is PoE 2. I can't wait. I will probably have more analysis videos as more footage comes out. Thanks for being here with me, and I'll see you next time.